Hey all, I want to welcome you to my lesson on coloring digital coloring books. These coloring books are often called adult coloring books or grown-up coloring books. And this here is my layout that I made. You can use these to make layouts also, which is what I want to do. I want to do my digital Bible journaling with them, but for this case I just made a layout, and here's what I colored digitally. It kind of looks like a cartoon, but I wanted to share that with you. I was at my friend's store here in downtown Cape Girardeau, and she had some, well, she called them grown-up coloring books, and this one was called A Secret Garden, and you can see by the cover the flowers and things in it. That's what every page in here looked like. It looked really a lot of fun. But you see, it's called a coloring book, and it's for adults. And so this is a new trend that is out there, for you to just have time to relax and wind down and think about things as you color. And this can also be done digitally. There are people that are scanning in like these book pages and doing them digitally. Uh, this one, of course, it's got a lot of detail. Some of the adult coloring book pages are, have larger areas. And in my friend's store, these are the pens that she had, or pencils, I guess they look like pencils that she had available. She's an artist. She knows how to do all this stuff. I don't. She has these colored pencils over here. It looks like she was recommending colored pencils. So, and apparently there's an eraser called Magic Rub she's recommending. But you can find these all over the internet. Now, if you just search adult coloring book or grown-up coloring book, you can find these for free everywhere. And of course, you can find them for purchase too. These people that know how to draw, like I do not, are blessing us by giving us freebies and things to color with. And but we can color them digitally. If you are a digital person and you're not so much just about coloring by hand, although I do want to try coloring some by hand and scanning them in digitally and then putting them on my layout. But this here is Tara D's site. I've met her online, and she's so generous and so absolutely talented, and she has offered to allow me to use some of her graphics. I'm going to give away a few with this tutorial on the class guide page that I've made in the video for you to use on your digital pages. My colored in ones, that is. But here is some of her pages, and you can see they're Christian pages. And at the bottom of each one, she offers them in full color in case you just want to print them out and put them on your wall, stick them up to remind yourself of the Bible verse. But she also offers the coloring page, and these are in PDF. And you simply, what I've been doing is right-clicking and opening it up in a new tab. And then you wait for that to come up. My computer's a little slow. I got Photoshop Elements and Photoshop and my recording software open. And so here you go. It comes up like this, and it's a coloring page, and then I simply right-click and I save it to my desktop. So that is Tara's adult coloring book page. In the Christian theme that you can go and download. There's places that you can buy these things. I am just now getting into it a little bit more, and so as I research and find places, maybe I'll share some on my blog. So I am going to head and go back to, I'm going to close that out to save on RAM while I'm recording. This is the page that I used, and I actually did this in the full version of Photoshop, but we're starting out in Photoshop Elements because you have to do this, you have to do a few extra steps in Photoshop Elements. And let's close out these other pages. Here is where I have it downloaded, and it is number 5, and here's the PDF, and I want to show you that these things do open in Photoshop Elements in PDF. So I'm just going to drag it up to my program, and you're going to see it comes up, well, I know in Photoshop it comes up with options. Let's see what it does in Photoshop Elements. Yeah, there you go. And it comes up with pages and images. You want to make sure you click images, and it's going to import this PDF, and just click OK, and see it changes it to an image. See, I can dock this, and we'll play on this here. Let's just play on this one, and then I'll go back and show you that one again. So in order to do digital coloring, there's several techniques. This video, I'm going to do another video. This video is going to show you how to do it with layer styles. The next video is going to show you how to do it with brushes. And there are so many ways and different techniques that you can use to digitally color. But let's start with her face. And basically, I'm in Photoshop Elements 11, but you know, these tools are in all versions of Photoshop. So I'm going to get the Quick Selection tool, and I'm just going to simply draw on her face. Now I have pre-selected here a face color in the color picker as my foreground color. And I'm going to click here to create a new layer. And then, I could go get the paint bucket tool, but I never use that because I use keyboard shortcuts. So I'm going to hit Alt Backspace, and that fills it in with the foreground color. Now if you hit Control Backspace, it fills it in with the background color. And there you go. You see I have it filled in, just as easy as that. Now it has spilled over into the hair. That happens sometimes when the lines aren't closed, and Tara's been redoing her pages to make sure her lines are closed, and this may be one that I got before she redid it. So I'm going to do Control D. Now most of the time I just leave those if it spills over, but if you want to get your eraser tool and just simply erase it like that, see, we're fixed. You can see there's a little bit of a gap here with a white. Don't worry about that. And here it went over the line. Just do not worry about that at all, because what's going to happen if it goes over the line, we are going to, in the end, raise this background layer up. I just double clicked it to unlock the layer. And we're going to raise it up above, but I found it while I was working, it was easier to have it at the bottom, because if you want to select your various layers just by clicking with the Move tool, it won't select them if this is above, because it selects this layer. So I raise this up at the end. And so anyway, here I have. Now, how did I get it to be all like that? More cartoony? Well, I used layer styles, and in this case I used 2 layer styles. I'm going to click on this FX at the bottom, wherever your layer styles are. And I used two layer styles basically. I first used a inner drop shadow. You don't want regular drop shadows because that's going to put the shadow outside. You want the inner ones that's going to put it inside. But let me tell you, here's the trick. If you're in Photoshop, you can just add layer styles directly to this layer. But if you are in, let me just show you. If you're in Photoshop, inner shadow, not inner shadow, let's see, let's go to bevels. If you're in the full version of Photoshop, or if you're in Photoshop Elements, you're going to want to use mostly the simple inner bevel or the simple emboss. Let's just do the simple inner and click on it. And then up here is the gear icon. You can go back to the layers palette and click on this FX, or if you're in here, you can just click on this little gear icon and it brings up the style settings. And I raise this all the way up, and you see how it softens it. Now you can go somewhere in between, but look how dark that is and how nice and soft it is over here in what I did in Photoshop, the full version. That is the problem. You don't have control over how strong the effect is. So I'm going to hit Control Z and Control Z again and go back to my layers palette. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to leave this layer and then hit Control J to duplicate the layer, or however you want to do it. If you want to drag the layer up to the Create New Layer, that also works. I like, there's certain shortcuts I tend to like. And so then I'm going to go to the effects and add that bevel and bring it all the way up. And then I'm going to go back to my layers palette and I'm going to lower the opacity. Now you see I've got a much nicer blend to that layer. And now if you want to go add another layer style to that, I found it's best to put each one on a different layer. So I'm going back to this original one, hit Control J, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to get that inner shadow. You don't have to put the inner shadows in addition to the bevel. You can just do bevels, but I'm just showing you so you can see that they really need to be on different layers. So I'm going to click the low, and you see how it adds a shadow to the top. And I'm going to click this gear, and you're going to see that with the inner shadows, there's not a whole lot you can do in Photoshop Elements. This aggravated me because they're not here. I don't know why you can't do that. You can try the high one, but I found that a little too high. The low seemed to work best. And then go back to your layers palette and lower that opacity until you can get something a little more realistic. So lower that even a little more. So it's something subtle. Now I'm going to make sure I click on this bottom layer again, and let's do this dress out here. And so I'm going to change it to a nice purple. Get my quick selection tool and I'm going to select inside the dress. Click to create a new layer. Make sure I'm on that new layer. Alt backspace, it fills in with my foreground color. Control D, deselects. I'm going to tuck my tool options away, and there you go. I have that dress. Now, if you wanted, you could copy your layer styles. Let me see if this works in Photoshop Elements. You can right click and copy layer style. Actually, I'm going to Control J this so it's on its own layer and paste that layer style. And you see it even pasted the opacity. Makes it a little easier. I'm going to Control J. I think you can copy this way. I'm going to hold down my Alt key and just drag down to this layer. And it also works that way when you want to copy. And so, and it copied, well, that's interesting. It did not copy the opacity that way. Let me right click, copy layer style, paste layer style. Huh. Well, if you do it that way, it keeps the opacity. Isn't that interesting? Okay. You know, sometimes every version of Photoshop works a little different. And so there you go. You see it's getting really cartoony-like. And but you really, because you have to lower the opacity that's too strong, you really have to have your layer styles on a different layer and then lower the opacity in Photoshop Elements. And so let's go back here. Oh, and then when you're done, when you get them all done, the whole page, you can do the whole page. When you get it all done, just drag this layer up to the top and let's see, hit multiply. And that is going to put the lines back in it. So that's what you need to do to because you do want the lines back in it. See, it doesn't look very good like that. So over here, you can see I have my lines, and actually instead of, yeah, I do have multiply on, and so that is my girl, and I actually extracted her out after I colored her in to put her in this layout. The Bible verse is all about Song of Solomon, and she's I was asleep, but my heart was awake. A voice, my beloved, was knocking. You see knocking down here. I've taken off my dress. How can I put it on again? I've washed my feet. How can I dirty them again? She's wanting to run to her lover and go back to her lover, and she's sitting in bed. And yet I took that and gave it a totally new meaning, saying of a basket case, you know, like those moments when you feel useless, unable to cope with life stresses and to-dos and burnout, when all you want to do is sit and stare and do nothing for a while and not even get dressed. It's okay. Take time to read. Take the time, rejuvenate. Don't beat yourself up. God gives you time away, a break for a reason. Take it and thank Him. So I gave it a whole different context because this is what I'm feeling right now in my life, where I feel like it's marvelous that I'm recording this video because I have had to push myself to get motivated to do anything because I just wanted to be that girl. But the girl has a whole different meaning here with the Bible verse. What I want to show you here is one more thing that I did, and I'm going to turn off these because you see what happens when I click to select the bed. It's selecting this top layer with the lines. So I'm going to turn those off. So I can just hit on this layer to focus on what I did here. And basically I did the styles, but let's go to the dress. I did the styles, but then you see here I clipped it out and then I added the layer styles, but then I took a digital scrapbooking paper and I clipped it to it in order to get the polka dots. So I'm going to hold down my Alt key and you can see that it gets this little icon when you hover between the two lines. And there's my paper. This is actually from one of my own kits, and I made the paper really small. It's a full-size paper that took up the whole thing because I wanted to make the pattern smaller. And so I stuck it on the layer above the dress, and you can just hit Control G, or you can hold down your Alt key and click right between these layers, and that groups it together. And of course, if it's too strong, if I wanted to, I could play with my opacity, or I could play with various blending modes. But for me, that was good enough just like that. And I did the same thing with the bed. Let's ungroup these. There's actually two of them. So you see I have, it's kind of hard to see because I've got so much other stuff going on here. You can see I just have this regular scrapbooking paper, and I turned it because I wanted the way the lines went to go with the effect of the bed. And so I just simply clipped this one, and it gave the bed texture, and I could have stopped there. It looks like it's got a nice blanket on it, but I felt it needed some more, and so I have this paper, and you can see I've changed it to luminosity and 44%. Let's change it back to normal. So I had this paper from another kit of mine with just stripes, and I turned it because I needed the stripes to go the same angle as the bed, so it looked like the stripes were going down the length of the bed. And then I simply clipped it, and you can see that is a bit too strong, so I played around, and I ended up choosing luminosity and 44%. And I decided that that's what I liked for the bed. So remember that you can take your digital scrapbooking papers and clip them after you add your layer styles in order to create a whole new effect. And and get textures. And so, well, there again, there's my layout. And the original. So let's go into Photoshop Elements, the full version. I like to do all my tutorials in Photoshop Elements so that those with that program can use it. But I want to take a peek at the same thing in Photoshop because I actually created it in Photoshop CC. And this is the same thing that I have here. But I'm going to turn off those lines. Let's click on her face. You can do a lot more with the styles in the full version of Photoshop. I'm going to click on the FX to bring it up, and you see I have a bevel and a boss, but in the full version you've got so much more to play with. See if right here you can lower the opacity of the shadow itself right here. See, this is the way it looks way too dark in the full version of Photoshop. But you can choose anything you want here. Here's where you make the size of the bevel go all the way up. I have it totally softened. And the depth, you can change the depth here to whatever you want that works. I have no idea what I had it on. But you see, I did change it up here to an inner bevel. You don't want an outer bevel. You want an inner bevel, or emboss sometimes works, but you see the emboss put shadows down here. Inner bevel works best because it keeps it within the shape and doesn't go out. But if you wanted to change it to a different blending mode, you can do that too. So then the drop shadow, the inner drop shadow that I added, also you look, I have the opacity all the way down to 9. If you were in the full version of Photoshop where we were playing with it over here, let's get rid of this page. And I had added, this is the inner drop shadow layer. I had it only down to 33% here, but I have it down at 9%. So this is what you have to do in Photoshop Elements on its own layer to get it to go down. And in the full version of Photoshop, you have the opacity slider right here. Real easy to adjust. And your distance, how far you want it to go in, you don't have that option in Photoshop Elements. So you have a lot more control over it here, as well as the size. So you just keep playing around in your styles thing until you get something that you like. The bevel and emboss, what's also cool is you have your light angle here, and you can turn off global so it only affects this one layer and adjust it however you want. Most of the time you want global. So, you know, that there is what I've done, and like I said, I could sit here and play with it just for fun to color in the rest of the page. You know, or you can extract a certain section and use it in your layouts. Or in, I've made 2 regular layouts with her digital adult coloring pages, but I have not made a digital Bible journaling page, and that's what I really want to do. I want to go back and do some of this to add to my digital Bible journaling pages that I do, and I have a tutorial on that if you want to go. Well, the next video is going to be on how to digital color in with brushes, and so be sure to catch that option too.